First contact and the call. The quantum arrays at Luna Base Station hadn't registered anything beyond background noise in 15 years. Sarah Chen had spent 12 of those years monitoring those same arrays, watching for signs that humanity wasn't alone in the vast darkness between the stars. Most of her colleagues had given up hope of first contact, but Sarah kept watching, kept listening. On a Tuesday morning that started like any other, everything changed. The arrays lit up like a Christmas tree, quantum signatures unlike anything humanity had ever recorded. Sarah's hands flew across her console, confirming and reconfirming the readings. This wasn't a glitch or equipment malfunction. This was real. Director Matthews. She called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. You need to see this. The station's director appeared behind her moments later, coffee mug in hand. His eyes widened as he took in the readings. My God, he whispered. Is that first contact, sir? And whatever they're sending, they're using technology we barely understand to make sure we get it. The message itself was simple, transmitted in multiple formats including basic mathematical sequences that any technological civilization should understand. To the warriors of soul, we need your help. Our civilizations face extinction. You are our last hope. What followed was a data packet that took hours for Earth's most advanced quantum computers to decrypt. It told a story that seemed impossible. A galaxy teeming with intelligent life, thousands of civilizations living in relative peace. But that peace had been shattered by the emergence of the Nexus, a crystalline hive mind that consumed everything in its path, adapting and evolving with terrifying speed. The gathered civilizations had fought back with their most advanced technologies. Antimatter weapons, gravity manipulation, even attempts to alter local spacetime. Nothing worked. The Nexus adapted to each weapon, each strategy, growing stronger with every encounter. But there was hope. The message explained that humanity was different from the other spacefaring races. Earth was classified as a death world, a planet so inherently hostile that it forged its inhabitants into natural warriors. While other species evolved in relatively stable environments, humanity had survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, and countless extinction events. We had evolved not just to survive, but to thrive in conditions that would kill most sentient species. The coalition of free worlds needed that strength now. They offered to share their advanced technology if humanity would join the fight. But there was a catch. The nearest Nexus swarm was only 6 months from Earth. Whether humanity helped or not, war was coming. Director Matthews didn't waste time. Within hours, the message had been authenticated and passed to every major government on Earth. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session as military leaders worldwide began assessing humanity's defensive capabilities. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, Earth's leading xenobiologist, addressed the gathered leaders. The coalition's assessment of Earth as a death world explained so much about our development, she explained. Our robust immune systems, our ability to heal from injuries, our endurance and adaptability. These aren't common traits among the other spacefaring races. We evolved these traits because we had to, just to survive on Earth. General Zhang of the Chinese Space Force leaned forward. And our weapons, our way of making war. Primitive by their standards, Elena admitted. But that might be our greatest advantage. The Nexus has adapted to energy weapons and exotic particle physics, but kinetic weapons, projectiles, chemical explosives, these are too simple, too fundamental for their adaptive capabilities to counter. You can't adapt to a tungsten rod moving at relativistic speeds. The debate raged for days as humanity faced its moment of truth. Some argued for isolation, for focusing solely on Earth's defense. Others saw an opportunity to join a larger galactic community, to prove humanity's worth among the stars. In the end, the decision came down to a simple truth. The Nexus was coming whether humanity helped or not. Better to fight them now, with allies and access to advanced technology, than alone 6 months later. The response was transmitted back through the quantum arrays. Coalition Command, This is Earth. We stand ready to assist. Send your technical data. We'll show you how Deathworlders make war. Within hours, coalition ships emerged from quantum space near Luna Base. Their vessels were works of art, all sweeping lines and exotic materials. But they carried more than advanced technology. They carried hope. As Sarah Chen watched the alien ships dock with the station, she realized humanity's long isolation was over. The stars had called for warriors, and Earth would answer. The real question was, would humanity's unique evolution be enough to turn the tide against an enemy that had defeated civilizations far more advanced than their own? The next few weeks would give them their answer, as humanity prepared for a war unlike any in Earth's history. A war that would either forge them into a galactic power or end their species entirely. The storm awakens. Commander Maya Patel stood in the massive underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching as engineers swarmed over Earth's mothball fleet. The Coalition's technical data had arrived 3 days ago, and humanity's best minds hadn't slept since. "How bad is it?" she asked Dr. James Morrison, the lead weapons engineer. He looked up from his tablet, dark circles under his eyes. "Depends on how you look at it. Their tech is centuries ahead of ours in some ways. Energy generation, faster than light travel, materials science." He gestured at the Coalition vessel in the adjacent bay. "That ship's hull is made of materials we can't even pronounce. But their weapons," he shook his head. "They went straight from primitive projectiles to energy weapons. Never developed mass drivers or rail guns. Never had to. Their worlds were too peaceful for arms races like we had on Earth." Maya watched as crews began retrofitting the ESS Hyperion, her ship with Coalition quantum drives. The vessel was Earth's newest warship, commissioned just months before the contact. Unlike the sleek Coalition vessels, Hyperion was built for war. Her hull was thick with layers of ablative armor, and her spine housed a massive electromagnetic accelerator capable of launching projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. "The Coalition engineers think we're insane," Morrison continued. "They keep trying to convince us to remove the kinetic weapons, say they're primitive and inefficient. They don't understand." "Understand what?" "That sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. The Nexus adapts to energy signatures, complex attack patterns. But physics, raw kinetic energy, you can't adapt to that. It's like trying to adapt to gravity." Across the facility, similar scenes played out. Coalition technicians worked alongside human engineers, combining their advanced technology with humanity's weapons of war. The results were unlike anything either civilization had created before. In orbit, the first hybrid ships were already beginning their trials. Coalition quantum drives and shield technology merged with human weapons platforms created vessels that could cross galaxies or reduce planets to rubble. But ships were only part of the equation. The Coalition had also provided data on Nexus tactics and biology. In laboratories worldwide, scientists studied the crystalline entities, looking for weaknesses. Dr. Elena Rodriguez made the first breakthrough. "They're perfect," she announced to the UN Security Council. "Too perfect." "Explain," General Zhang demanded. Elena brought up a holographic display of Nexus microstructures. "Their crystalline matrix is flawless. No imperfections, no variants. It's how they achieve their incredible adaptation rate, perfect replication of successful mutations throughout the entire hive mind. And this helps us how? Because perfection is fragile." Elena zoomed in on the display. "Introduce enough chaos into their system, not just energy or force, but true chaos, and their adaptation mechanisms break down. They can't handle quantum uncertainty or genuine randomness. It disrupts their whole command structure." This revelation led to Project Entropy, a classified program combining Coalition quantum technology with deliberately unpredictable human weapon systems. No two shots would be identical. No two attacks would follow the same pattern. Maya found herself at the heart of this project, as Hyperion was chosen as the test bed for the new hybrid systems. Her crew trained relentlessly, learning to operate technology that seemed like magic alongside the weapons they'd grown up with. The Coalition observers were puzzled by human military doctrine. "Why do you train for equipment failures?" one asked Maya. "Our systems are perfectly reliable." "Because anything can fail," Maya replied. "And when it does, you need to be ready to fight on with whatever you have left. That's how we survived on Earth." This philosophy proved prophetic during the first full power test of the hybrid systems. A Coalition quantum harmonizer failed catastrophically, but the human crew switched to backup systems without missing a beat. The Coalition engineers were stunned. Their own crews would have been paralyzed by such a failure. As the weeks passed, more ships were upgraded, more crews trained. The Coalition provided data on Nexus fleet movements, and Earth strategists began planning their response. They would have only one chance to prove that humanity's primitive approach to warfare could succeed where advanced technology had failed. 60 days after first contact, the combined fleet was ready. 20 Earth ships, upgraded with Coalition tech, but still bristling with the weapons of humanity's own wars, prepared to make their first faster-than-light jump. Maya stood on Hyperion's bridge, watching the final preparations. Her crew was ready, their ship was ready, but doubt still nagged at her. Humanity had never fought a war like this, never faced an enemy that could adapt to their tactics in real time. But then she remembered why they were fighting. Not just for Earth, but for all the civilizations that couldn't fight for themselves. The peaceful races that had never needed to develop humanity's capacity for warfare. "All ships report ready," her XO announced. Maya took a deep breath. "Send the signal to Coalition Command. Tell them the Deathworlders are on their way." The fleet vanished into quantum space, leaving Earth behind. They carried with them humanity's unique approach to warfare, not the elegant solutions of advanced civilizations, but the brutal efficiency of a species that had clawed its way up from the mud of a hostile world. The Nexus was about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world, and why its inhabitants had survived everything their planet had thrown at them. First blood. The Hyperion emerged from quantum space at the edge of the Arcturus system, followed by the rest of Earth's fleet. Maya's first glimpse of a Nexus swarm took her breath away. Crystalline structures the size of small moons drifted through the system's outer reaches, their surfaces reflecting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. "Beautiful," her science officer whispered. "Beautiful like a cobra," Maya replied. "Coalition intelligence reports coming in now." The data painted a grim picture. 3 Coalition worlds had already fallen to this swarm, their surfaces transformed into crystalline breeding grounds for more Nexus units. The remaining inhabitants had been absorbed into the hive mind, their knowledge and technology added to the collective. Multiple quantum signatures, Tactical reported. Coalition refugee ships in the inner system, pursued by Nexus hunter forms. Maya straightened in her command chair. This wasn't just a test run anymore. Real lives hung in the balance. Signal the fleet. Battle formation Delta. Let's show them how Earth fights. The human ships moved with practiced precision, their formation seemingly random but carefully designed to maximize the unpredictability that disrupted Nexus coordination. Coalition observers had questioned this approach, arguing for more traditional tactics. But humanity had learned through centuries of warfare that chaos could be a weapon in itself. Nexus forces changing course, Tactical announced. They're curious about us, reading energy buildups consistent with their scanning systems. Let them look, Maya smiled. They won't find anything they understand. Launch first wave of kinetic platforms. Hyperion's main gun spoke, a silent flash in space as it launched its first projectile. The round, a specially designed penetrator combining Coalition phase technology with good old-fashioned tungsten, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The Nexus didn't even try to dodge. Their adaptive shields, perfect against energy weapons, might as well have been tissue paper against pure kinetic force. The round struck the nearest crystalline structure and simply continued through, leaving a perfect hole in its wake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystalline structure began to fracture, complex geometries failing as microscopic cracks propagated through its perfect lattice. Within seconds, the massive construct shattered into billions of glittering fragments. Direct hit, Tactical reported, unnecessary but satisfying. Nexus swarm is responding. Multiple hostiles on intercept course. The battle that followed would be studied in war colleges for generations to come. The Nexus adapted quickly, trying to predict the humans' attack patterns. But there were no patterns to predict. Each ship fired independently, their targeting solutions deliberately randomized, their movements following no discernible strategy. Coalition observers watched in amazement as humanity's primitive weapons wreaked havoc on an enemy their advanced technology couldn't touch. Rail guns spat hypervelocity rounds while modified missile pods launched warheads combining Coalition quantum warheads with simple chemical propellants. But the Nexus wasn't helpless. They learned, adapted, evolved new defenses. Crystal structures grew thicker, developed layered geometries to deflect kinetic impacts. Hunter forms swarmed human vessels, trying to overwhelm their defenses with sheer numbers. Hull breach on Deck 4, damage control reported. Nexus boarding forms detected. Maya had been waiting for this. Initiate protocol chaos. Throughout Hyperion and every other human vessel, speakers began broadcasting a carefully designed mix of random frequencies. To human ears, it was just noise. But to the crystalline Nexus forms, whose entire existence depended on perfect harmonic resonance, it was devastating. The boarding forms literally fell apart, their perfect structures unable to maintain coherence in the face of true randomness. It was another example of humanity's unique approach, using the enemy's perfection against itself. But victory came at a cost. 3 human ships were lost, their crews fighting to the last even as their vessels were torn apart. The Coalition refugees were saved, but the price in human lives weighed heavily on Maya. Status report, she ordered, after the last Nexus form had been destroyed or driven off. 5 Nexus capital ships destroyed, dozens of smaller forms eliminated. Refugee ships report successful evacuation of the inner system, but the Hyperion's main gun is offline, crystalline growth in the barrel. Engineers say they've never seen anything like it. Maya nodded grimly. The Nexus was already adapting, finding ways to counter human weapons, but that was expected. Humanity's advantage had never been in superior technology or overwhelming force, but in their ability to adapt faster, to think in ways the hive mind couldn't predict. Send the battle data to Earth, she ordered. Tell them we won, but the Nexus is learning. We need new weapons, new tactics, and we need them fast. As Hyperion's quantum drive spooled up for the return jump, Maya stared at the battlefield debris sparkling in starlight. They had won their first engagement, proved that humanity's approach could work. But this was just the beginning. The Nexus would adapt. They would come back stronger, smarter, more prepared for human tactics. But that was fine. Humanity had spent its entire existence adapting, overcoming, surviving. This would be no different. The war for the galaxy's future had begun, and humanity was ready to show the cosmos why Earth was called a Deathworld. Evolution's edge. 3 months into the war, Earth's initial advantage was fading. The Nexus had adapted to simple kinetic weapons, developing crystalline structures that could absorb and redistribute impact energy. They'd even started mimicking human battle tactics, introducing controlled uncertainty into their own movements. In the command center beneath Mount Cheyenne, Maya studied the latest battle footage. Her ship, Hyperion, had been refitted twice since that first engagement, each time incorporating new lessons learned at terrible cost. They're learning too fast, Dr. Rodriguez said, manipulating the holographic display. Each encounter makes them stronger. We've lost the element of surprise. Then we need something new, Maya replied. Something they can't adapt to. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kenzo Tanaka, a quantum physicist who'd been studying Nexus debris, burst into the command center clutching a tablet. His eyes were wild with excitement or lack of sleep. Probably both. "Look at this," he said, throwing his data onto the main display. "We've been thinking about them all wrong. They're not just crystalline. They're quantum crystalline." Elena leaned forward, her eyes widening. "Their perfect structure extends to the quantum level," Kenzo finished. "It's how they maintain their hive mind across interstellar distances, quantum entanglement on a massive scale. But that's also their weakness." Maya looked between the two scientists. "Explain it like I'm a warship captain." Elena took over. "Quantum systems are inherently fragile. The more complex they are, the harder it is to maintain quantum coherence. The Nexus achieves it through perfect crystalline structures and incredible processing power. But if we could disrupt that coherence, we could shatter their hive mind," Kenzo said. "Not just locally, but across their entire network." The implications were staggering. Every Nexus form they'd encountered was connected to every other, sharing information, adapting as one. Break that connection, and they'd lose their greatest advantage. But the Coalition representatives were skeptical. "We've tried quantum weapons," their chief scientist argued. "They adapted." "Because you tried to be precise," Kenzo countered. "Controlled. We need to do the opposite. We need to introduce quantum chaos on a massive scale." Project Babel was born from that insight. While the main fleet kept the Nexus occupied, a special task force would strike at the heart of their control network. But first, they needed to find it. Analysis of Nexus movements revealed a pattern. All their forces seemed to pivot around a particular region of space, a star cluster that the Coalition had previously dismissed as empty. Maya volunteered Hyperion for the reconnaissance mission. The ship emerged from quantum space at the edge of the cluster, running silent. What they found confirmed their theories. A massive crystalline structure, larger than anything they'd encountered before, orbited a dying star. Its surface rippled with complex patterns, the physical manifestation of the Nexus's quantum network. Like a living computer, Maya's science officer breathed. Processing power beyond anything we could imagine. But they weren't alone. Guard forms patrolled the system in complex patterns, their crystalline surfaces reflecting the red light of the dying star. Getting close enough to deploy their weapon would be nearly impossible. Unless, what if we didn't have to get close? Maya asked during the mission debrief. What if we could use their own network against them? The plan that emerged was audacious, combining Coalition quantum technology with humanity's talent for unconventional warfare. They would build a quantum virus, a cascade of contradictory quantum states that would propagate through the Nexus's own network, corrupting their perfect coherence. "It's insane," the Coalition quantum experts said. "The calculations alone would take years." "Not if we don't try to control it," Kenzo argued. "We just need to start the cascade. Let chaos theory do the rest." For 2 weeks, the best minds from Earth and the Coalition worked to create their weapon. They called it the Babel device, a quantum bomb designed not to destroy, but to shatter the perfect order that gave the Nexus its power. But as they worked, the Nexus pressed their advantage. 3 more Coalition worlds fell. Earth's fleet, even with its hybrid technology, was being pushed back. Time was running out. The final version of the device was smaller than Maya expected, a quantum core the size of her fist, surrounded by layers of Coalition tech and human innovation. "One shot," Kenzo warned as they loaded it aboard Hyperion. "The moment we activate it, they'll know what we're trying to do. And we have to get it close enough to their main processor for the cascade to take hold." Maya looked at her crew, volunteers all. They knew the odds. They'd lost friends, seen ships torn apart by crystalline tendrils. But they'd also seen humanity's potential unleashed among the stars, proving that their primitive world had prepared them for exactly this kind of fight. "Plot a course for the cluster," she ordered. "We're going to show them why humans never learn to give up." As Hyperion vanished into quantum space, Maya thought about Earth, about all the worlds counting on them. They carried with them humanity's greatest weapons, not just technology or firepower, but the stubborn determination that had kept their species alive on a world that had tried countless times to kill them. The Nexus was about to learn that perfection wasn't everything. Sometimes, chaos was exactly what the universe needed. Imperfect victory. Hyperion dropped out of quantum space inside a debris field that had once been a Nexus patrol fleet. The dying star loomed ahead, its red light casting everything in shades of blood and shadow. At the center of it all, the massive crystalline processor pulsed with otherworldly patterns. Multiple contacts, Tactical reported. They know we're here. Maya had expected nothing less. Launch decoys, all hands, battle stations. The ship's hybrid drives howled as Hyperion accelerated through the debris field. Behind them, quantum signatures flared as the rest of Earth's fleet arrived. Every ship that could still fight had volunteered for this mission. They knew humanity had one shot at this, one chance to prove that imperfection could triumph over the Nexus's fatal pursuit of perfection. Nexus formations adapting, Tactical called out. They're different. Maya saw it too. The crystalline ships were changing, their structures becoming more organic, more chaotic. The Nexus had learned from every encounter, and now they were mimicking humanity's greatest strength, their unpredictability. They think they understand us, Maya said. Show them how wrong they are. Execute Pattern Omega. Earth's fleet split apart, each ship following randomized vectors that looked like panic, but were actually carefully controlled chaos. The Nexus forces, trying to match their apparent disorder, fell into disarray. They had copied the form but couldn't grasp the underlying principle, that true adaptability came from millions of years evolving on a world that never stopped trying to kill you. Hyperion punched through the first defensive line, its hull screaming as crystalline weapons tried to tear it apart. Maya felt the deck shuddering beneath her feet as the ship's point defense systems engaged, spraying clouds of specially designed nanites that disrupted the Nexus's crystalline structures. Main processor at 1 million kilometers, navigation reported, detecting massive energy buildup. The massive crystalline structure ahead was transforming, its surface rippling like liquid metal. The Nexus was bringing its full computational power to bear, trying to predict and counter every possible human strategy. That's when Maya gave the order they'd been waiting for. Deploy the Chaos Pods. From every human ship, thousands of tiny pods launched into space. Each contained a different mix of radioactive isotopes, their decay patterns truly random in a way no computer could predict. The Nexus's quantum sensors, trying to track and analyze every threat, began to overload. They're faltering, Dr. Tanaka reported from the science station. Their quantum coherence is destabilizing. Now's our chance. Maya keyed the fleet-wide channel. All ships, converge on our position. Give us everything you've got. Earth's remaining ships formed up around Hyperion, their weapons blazing. They fired everything. Railguns, missiles, energy weapons, even clouds of simple metal particles designed to interfere with the Nexus's crystalline structures. The assault wasn't meant to destroy the processor, just distract it. Because the real attack came from within. Hours earlier, Coalition quantum engineers had helped them hide the Babel device inside a seemingly destroyed human vessel. While the Nexus was focused on the fleet, that ship had drifted closer and closer to the processor, broadcasting the same quantum signatures as the surrounding debris. Babel device in position, Tactical announced. Ready on your mark. Maya took a deep breath. Everything hinged on this moment. Remember Earth, she said to her crew. Remember why we never gave up, never stopped fighting, never accepted defeat. We evolved on a world that taught us one thing above all else. Life finds a way. Activate the device. The Babel device detonated in a flash of quantum possibility. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive processor began to change. Its perfect crystalline surface developed imperfections, microscopic flaws that spread like cracks in ice. The Nexus tried to adapt, to maintain its quantum coherence, but the cascade was too chaotic, too unpredictable. The effect rippled outward through the quantum network that connected all Nexus forms. Across the galaxy, their perfect crystalline structures began to break down as conflicting information flooded their network. The hive mind that had seemed invincible shattered under the weight of true quantum uncertainty. Multiple detonations, tactical reported, voice filled with awe. The processor is breaking apart. The entire Nexus network is collapsing. Maya watched as the massive structure fractured, its pieces drifting apart in the red starlight. Around them, Nexus ships went dark, their controlling intelligence gone. Some broke apart, while others drifted aimlessly, their perfect geometry now marred by spreading imperfections. The battle was over. The war, incredibly, was won. Hours later, Maya stood in Hyperion's observation deck, watching coalition ships arrive to help with cleanup. The cost had been high. Too many good people, too many ships lost. But humanity had proved something remarkable. That their greatest weakness, their imperfect, chaotic nature, was actually their greatest strength. The coalition scientists want to study the remnants, her XO reported. They say we've revolutionized their understanding of quantum mechanics. Maya smiled. Tell them they're welcome to it, but make sure they understand one thing. What's that, Captain? Sometimes the universe doesn't need perfection. Sometimes it needs creatures forged in fire and chaos, who learn to survive by never stopping, never giving up, never accepting that something was impossible just because everyone said it was. She turned to look at Earth's fleet, battered but unbowed. Sometimes the universe needs Deathworlders. In the dying light of the red star, humanity had proved why Earth's harsh evolution had created exactly the warriors the galaxy needed. Not because they were stronger or more advanced, but because they understood something the Nexus never could, that perfection was overrated, and that true strength came from learning to thrive in the face of chaos. As Hyperion prepared to return home, Maya knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had earned their place among the stars not through technological advancement, but by being exactly what they were: survivors, adapters, warriors who never learned how to quit. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was perfectly fine with her.